FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.
Welcome, and you are listening to the Financial Survival Network. I'm Kerry Lutz. It's Halloween, 10/31/18. That means there's just 2 short months left to an amazing year. And as always, we invite you to join the discussion, be a part of the show. The email address is kl@kerrylutz.com. Well, if you're like me, and you're like so many others out there, you're always wondering what to do with your finances. What about the economy? Is this bull market kaput? And what is going to come next? It's my pleasure to introduce to you the author of Fit Money and an award-winning financial advisor. Her name is Julia M. Carlson. Julia, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Pleasure. So, obviously, you got recognition. You've written a book on this topic. So you've got some pretty strong beliefs about the current financial markets, where they're heading. Share with us, if you will, what you see coming down the road and how that fits in with why you wrote Fit Money.
Okay, wow, that's there's a lot in that question.
It's loaded. It is explosive, but I think
but good, very timely. So let's take a step back. I'll kind of give you a brief behind the scenes of Fit Money, and then we'll go into what I feel about the current markets. So I became a financial advisor when I was 20 years old. Actually, it's been my only career. I'm also a very entrepreneurial spirited. So I started my company when I was 23, and it was kind of my firstborn, right? I have 3 kids now, but at the time I really was able to put a lot of energy into it. Fast forward, had 3 kids, completely out of shape because I had spent all this energy taking care of everyone else. And I thought, okay, I got to take care of me. So what do? I decide to compete in a figure bodybuilding competition.
From new mother of 3 kids, and I assume you had them in pretty rapid succession. All of a sudden you said,
6 years.
I'm sitting around here, nothing's changing. If I don't do something really quickly and really dramatic, I'm just going to be doing more of the same. So, I mean, obviously, I've got 3 kids myself. I know what women go through after pregnancy. My daughter just had my first grandchild. So I totally know. So this is like a shock to the system here. And I have a feeling this theme is going to carry over. So fast forward, you do this.
Yes. Yeah. So I competed. I did that for 5 years. But what I discovered in that process is the same skills we need to get our bodies in the best shape are the same skills you need to get your finances in shape. And so hence when I was done doing with that chapter in my life, I decided to write the book Fit Money, 7 Steps to Get Your Financial Life in Shape, just to inspire and give my version to the world of what you need to do to create a strong financial future.
And obviously, you can't just isolate one area of your life. If you're messed up in one area, you're probably messed up in many areas. So even though one area might appear to be going well at one point, really, these themes come up. The behavior keeps repeating itself. So,
and what I discovered actually when I was competing, I thought going into it, oh, my kids aren't going to see their mom. My business isn't going to grow. Like all these things that were going to be negative in the other areas, but the opposite happened because I was so laser focused in one area. It showed up in all aspects of my life. And so now the thought is, if you have that focus, it gives you a sense of freedom because you're following your plan. Same thing with your finances. It's not difficult, but you have to have a plan.
Hey, and not to digress, but a mentor of mine met with the Dalai Lama one time with a bunch of people, and the Dalai Lama throws out the question, what is happiness? And this guy, Joel Bauer, says, basically, happiness is having a goal or having a direction you're following, accomplishing something, which leads to self-esteem, which leads to happiness, which leads to repeating the process. And so it sounds like you kind of got into that mindset. You did something you didn't believe that you could do, and here you are. So how does this tie in with financial markets? How does it tie in with becoming fit money, if you will?
Yeah, so exactly when I work with my clients, as a financial advisor, my job is to come alongside them and help them on this financial journey. And oftentimes in markets like we've had in October with extreme volatility, the clients, well, I think we've done a good job educating our clients, but I think of it as they need someone to be there to talk to get mad at, to tell their fears to. Like, money is a very touchy subject, right? There's a lot of emotions that are tied in with money, and it's rooted back to childhood or our life experiences sometimes. So for now, 2008 is not too in the distant past. So whenever we start getting volatility, which is normal for markets, people automatically think, oh my gosh, we're going into 2008 again. And so my thought is, we are not on that cliff. What triggered these markets in October was the Fed coming out and saying, hey, this economy looks really good. We will continue to increase interest rates. And although that creates more volatility because things cost more, interest rates, it's essential to get our interest rates back up to average levels. We need more tools in the toolbox for when we do go into the next recession. And so it's healthy, but that triggered a lot of this volatility. The trade talks, issues, policy between us and China, that is something that creates uncertainty in the markets. The markets do not like uncertainty. Another thing is corporate earnings. So we're about a little over halfway through earnings season, and the corporate profits are really good. And so you think that's what drives this market. That's why the market's up today. But what they're saying is, we don't know if it's going to be this good a year from now. And again, the market is very efficient at trading in the beliefs, right? What we believe will happen in the future is what gets marked into the market. And so those are all things that have added volatility. On the positive side, we have strong unemployment. So we have a lot of people at work. We have a lot of people making the most money they've ever made. And guess what's right around the corner? The holiday season.
Yeah.
And so my thought is, we're going to have a strong holiday season, which sometimes we refer to that as a Santa Claus rally, to kind of bring in a strong ending to this year.
Interesting. And let's just address a few of those issues you raised. So yes, unemployment is at generational lows, and even more so, 50 years when you look at certain groups for women, minorities, etc. So that's a good thing. And new claims for unemployment plunged again. I guess it was this week or end of last week when the number came out, and they keep going down. So now, at least in theory, we have more job openings than we have unemployed people in the country, something that's never happened, but we could get into the methodologies for counting those so-called unemployed or underemployed. Obviously, China, we've had proactive trade disputes brought on by the administration against Canada, Mexico, Korea, Japan, the EU. And so far, on the surface of things, the U.S. has come out pretty much on top, because I think what the country's been asking for isn't really unreasonable: reciprocity, equality, leveling the playing field. But on the other hand, the market, this bull market, is 10 years old. It's the longest one in history. And we know that every boom ends with a bust. mean, there's no question about that. So it's kind of like you're sitting by your door. You know that somebody, you watch this on TV. You know that someone's about to break in. You've got the shotgun there. You've got it cocked, and you're just ready for them to break in. But you're watching, and you're kind of dozing, and kind of, you can only keep this up for so long. We're kind of in that position, and it's really like everybody thinks, well, there's going to be a sign and I'll head for the exits before it crashes. and you as a financial planner know that type of reasoning always ends in disaster. So what do you do? How do you prepare for the inevitable?
FSN Radio. It's all about what's next.
Egypt is on the verge, once again, becoming a world-renowned gold producer. The Golden Age is being rediscovered. For millennia, ancient Egyptian kingdoms prospered from unparalleled riches. Pharaohs built their empires and flaunted their abundant wealth that was made possible by the country's resource-rich gold deposits. Despite this rich history, modern Egypt remains one of the most underdeveloped gold mining countries in the world. Aton Resources is at the center of the modern Egyptian mining world, diligently working both as the only public exploration company in Egypt today and as the advocate for mining reform with the Egyptian government. However, those that arrive early like Aton will reap the best rewards. Aton's discovery of the legendary Lost Mountain of Gold at Rodruin and its current aggressive drilling program there could potentially reap those rewards. Aton Resources is focused on its 100% owned Abu Marawat concession in the Arabian-Nubian Shield, located 200 kilometers north of Centamin Securities' world-class gold mine. Aton possesses first-mover advantage in the underfollowed jurisdiction of Egypt, which is currently undergoing mining reform. To stay on top of Aton's latest drill results and news, go to atonresources.com. Aton trades on the TSX-V under the ticker AAN and on the OTC under the ticker ANLBF.
The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.
Yeah, so I equate this to riding a roller coaster, right? You have a lot of people that ride a roller coaster and are super excited about it. They have their arms up when they go down the big steep decline. Mm-hmm. They're like, wahoo! Those are what we call our aggressive investors. They can go with the ups and downs. Their risk tolerance allows for that. They have time. They understand the mechanics of it. Mm. Then you have that roller coaster rider that will still ride the roller coaster, but they want to do it with their eyes completely shut, right? And they're trying to hold on for dear life. Exactly. So we as a financial advisor, my job is to figure out what kind of rider they are, right? So if they're closed eyes rider, we need to have low volatility in their portfolio. We need to have a more moderate risk. These are clients also most likely that have built their nest egg. They're not in that accumulation mode. They're more in that, I just want to preserve and get income off of it. Completely different type of portfolio for those. And then we have some clients or people we talk to that don't even want to get on the roller coaster. And so that, that's a different way. That being said, I think that, yes, we're in the late stages of this bull market. What we've started to do is passive funds or passive investing is very good in a bull market. As you get to the later stages of a bull market, you want to start bringing in more tactical management. And so we've begun doing that, and that will help with the volatility and also figuring out, it's we can't time this market. No one knows, but mm-hmm. Also a lot of times when our fundamental numbers show up that we're in recession is long after we've actually gone through the dip.
Yeah, that's a problem because the indicators are always lagging. Even if they're so-called leading indicators, you're getting them after. And let's face it, the smart money has already headed for the exits at that point. You're left holding the bag. So what do you do here? I mean...
I would say depending on your goals, right? Mm-hmm. If you have a long time, for me, I'm 41. I am not going to need my retirement money for probably 20 years. I keep investing. I don't make these shifts within my portfolio because I know I have good, solid investments. I keep adding money monthly to it. I keep investing. And so when the market's down, it's like I'm buying way more of those shares along the way. So if you have got a ways off, it's pretty much stay the course is my advice. Now, if you're in retirement, again, that's when you have to do some more strategic changes and more protection mode. So it just really depends on the individual goals of the client. That is how we determine that.
Right. So, yeah, obviously, the older you get, the less appetite for risk normally you would have, and you're going to reflect that accordingly. So, but one thing that is happening that no one can deny is the debt's increasing, not quite geometrically, but it's increasing at a rapid rate, not just governmental, federal deficit, but the states, individuals, counties, cities, and all that. And that could definitely throw some rain on the parade here. And it's something you got to be aware of. But can you prepare for the next debt crisis? Is there a way to be ready for it? Because it's going to happen, and it might turn into a currency crisis. Who knows? Maybe oil will quadruple. We don't know how it'll manifest itself, but it's going to happen.
Yeah, I don't know what I can do on a big scale for that. My thought would be the awareness that we each have and need. My hope would be that people that do get more money back on their taxes, like right now with the tax reform, individuals, small business owners are not really going to feel that effect until tax time next year, when they either get refunds or the business owners get some of their quarterly taxes back. So I feel like that really hasn't been factored into this. So my hope would be that people get educated to where they do have plans to get out of debt for their own financial situation. It's like we all have to have our own personal responsibility to our own situation. And if you're going into a recession or a debt crisis, it's like you don't want to be owing anyone, right? So sure. I think that's how I implement that with my clients, is making sure that, hey, we're not investing before we have all this other debt paid off. Like, your priority, if they come see me, is come back and see me after you get this paid off, because that needs to be the priority.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So interesting. It's interesting because, as inevitable as the future may seem, it's always different, always turns out differently than you ever expected, than you thought possible. So just generally, if you're Joe Sixpack and, you're in your late 50s and, you got some time for retirement, maybe you got a 401k there, maybe there's even an old legacy pension plan. Hopefully you'll be around for your future retirement. Do you look at allocation, or what's the strategy here for somebody like that?
Yeah. So what we do for someone, pre-retirement is start looking at what are their basic needs in retirement versus what are their discretionary needs. And what we believe in is we want to make sure those basic needs, housing, utilities, food, all the bills, right? All of those monthly bills, those are matched up with guaranteed income sources. So it could be, we use Social Security, although, we have to be careful on that. Sure. If they have a pension, if they maybe have rentals, like those are all things that can be somewhat quantified of saying this is pretty stable income. And then the travel, the discretionary expenses, those are all things that we feel that, okay, we could use your investment nest egg to create this discretionary income to cover that. So what we do is try to figure out what they need for guaranteed income versus what they need for discretionary, and the mix of investments kind of follow what they need.
Got it. All right. That makes sense. And everybody's situation's different. There's no cookie cutter solution for everybody's situation. Hey, just finally wrapping up, what is like the one thing you've learned from doing this for 20 years, it being your only career, which is really unusual in this day and age. Mm-hmm. What's the biggest lesson that you have learned, both for yourself and for your clients in your experience?
Yeah. So for me personally, I would say I do what I say. And so to be congruent and aligned with, hey, I'm doing what I recommend. So for me, that makes me a better businesswoman because I'm out there living and doing and practicing what I preach. On the other side of that, then is the consistency and teaching people that it's very easy to get caught up in the short term, but really the way to win at the money game is having a long-term perspective and knowing that there's not any get rich quick, right? So you don't have to be way crazy on the aggressive risk. It's more about being consistent, having those healthy habits that create that long-term success.
All right. So, hey, if I could sum it up, you walk the walk. You don't just talk the talk, you walk the walk. You're authentic, both in what you do for yourself and what you tell others. And I guess I could glean from that you wouldn't put somebody into an investment that you felt was inappropriate for them or that you wouldn't do yourself. And that has to be qualified because you're at a certain age. Somebody else who's 65 and getting ready to collect Social Security. Yeah. So obviously their frame of reference and their position in life is going to be different. So, but if you were in that position, if you were 65, you wouldn't put a 65-year-old into something that you yourself wouldn't do, which I think is a real positive, and it's a real sign of leadership. Having been an entrepreneur, serial entrepreneur myself, my whole life, I learned early on, never ask an employee to do something that you yourself wouldn't do, because it's not going to end well. Authenticity, you being able to do all the jobs that you would delegate to others, but getting off the topic a little bit. But I don't think it's really off the topic, because I think, like we started out, is that all of your areas of your life are connected. And hey, if you're a good entrepreneur, you have a shot at being a good investor if you follow those rules. I guess the problem is a lot of us, me particular, a lot of you out there, don't know what the rules you followed to become successful are. So it becomes really difficult to translate them and transfer those skills into investing, which is a whole different ballgame, because it involves a lot of trust, it involves time, and the ability to make decisions. But hey, I guess that could be for your next book. So,
yes, to all of that, yeah.
So your book, again, where do we find it? Fit Money. Where do we find that book?
Yeah, you can find it on Amazon. You can also find it on juliamcarlson.com. That is my website. And on that, you can also find the accompanying workbook that goes along with it. And we also have some videos that accompany it as well that show, like, one chapter is on relationships and money. So I actually show my husband and I on a financial date of how that goes. And then a special treat for Halloween here and your listeners, if they go to financialfreedomwmg.com/fitmoney, they will actually be able to download the ebook for free.
Oh, very cool. Hey, well, we appreciate that. And you just need to give us that URL again.
Okay, so that is financialfreedomwmg.com/fitmoney.
All right. Excellent. So, hey, we'll have a link to that in the show notes to this interview. Julia, really appreciate you coming on. Hey, any questions or comments for Julia, myself? The email address is kl@kerrylutz.com. The Twitter feed @KerryLutz, and the Facebook page is Financial Survival Network. Julia, been a pleasure having you on. Good luck, and we'll talk to you again.
Thank you.
FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.